sea base has dropped on a Friday, a drizzly, dreary Friday, but a Friday nonetheless, March 15th. Here in Atlanta, Georgia, Soccer Down here is live. Jason Longshore, John Nelson with you this morning. We'll be getting into Atlanta and Philadelphia this weekend. Sunday, 7 o'clock kick. Mike Conti and Doug Roberson will be joining us in hour number 2 to get ready for that. But we're going to tread on some soccer over there to kick things off because there was a bit of news this morning if you follow the game in Europe. Champions League, draw, you have matchups. We should probably talk about those a little bit. Where do you want to start? What's the most intriguing Champions League matchup for you, John?
Intriguing, huh?
Which one grabbed your attention and said, I'm watching both of those games, everything else get out of the way?
Wow. It's set up nicely for Liverpool and for Manchester City. And I guess because of that,
wow,
for
Spurs
me,
fans at OSG Nelson, by the way.
Well, yeah, Joe Patrick.
Yeah, seriously.
But I'm looking, honestly, right now, I'm looking at Spurs and Manchester City to start because Spurs have hit a bit of a rough patch. And if Manchester City is going to back up all the talk about wanting to be multiple trophy-winning dudes, you've got to get through a team that's in your own league, but is having a bit of a rough patch. I want to see if Spurs can turn it around and knock off the big dog in their own league to try to advance further. I think it's going to be a bit of a tough run for Manchester United. But you give me a question like that, and it's kind of loaded because I'm going to be watching all of it anyway. So I'm looking for subplot for me. So honestly, A, I'm looking at all of them. B, I'm going to watch all of them. C, for me, it's Spurs and whether or not they can shake it off and knock off Manchester City.
So these will start April 9th and 10th for the first legs, 16th and 17th for the second legs. It's Ajax and Juve, it's Liverpool and Porto, it's Tottenham and Manchester City, and it's Barca and Manchester United. One thing that did have to be tweaked is that Manchester United were originally drawn to be away first, but you can't have Manchester United and Manchester City at home on the same night, or even consecutive nights. You know, people have to sleep in Manchester at some point. The police needs to get a little bit of rest at some point. Well, UEFA says so, and Manchester City authorities say so. The first leg of Manchester United and Barcelona will be at Old Trafford. They had to flip that one. That was the only change. I want to see if Ajax can keep it going. That's a huge ask against Juve. They have to be pretty happy about their draw. Liverpool, I think, is happy about theirs.
Yep.
Tottenham City has a lot of different things in it. Can Pochettino step up? I mean, he's a guy who's going to be potentially in demand at the end of the season. I mean, there's still our buddy Ole Gunnar does not have a contract as of yet. All the talk about, well, they want Pochettino. They want Pochettino. If Ole Gunnar gets further in the Champions League, maybe that's not going to happen. I'm intrigued. I guess you look at this from a glance, you'd think it's Juve, it's Liverpool, it's City, it's Barcelona going through. That would be your gut reaction, I think. I think you have clear favorites in each one. But I think each underdog, maybe with the exception of Porto, and I don't know a ton about this Porto squad. I'm not up on my Portuguese league this season, but we saw what Ajax did, so you have to give them some consideration. Tottenham and Manchester United are both very big, very strong clubs. They're going to give City and Barcelona a tough time, but these are all pretty intriguing, I think.
Yeah, I mean, you look at Juve and you look at the first leg against Atletico, and, if Ajax keeps doing what they're doing and Juve shows up like they did in the first leg, then Ajax sets themselves up. For me, Liverpool, once again, they've got to love their particular draw. Barca and Man U, can Manchester United continue to do with the magic that the OGS has done, and to do it against Barca? I mean, it's you have teams who are trying in this competition to just kind of get through the road leg and do your damage at home. Saw what Juve did against Atletico, saw what Liverpool ended up doing, and then you saw what Manchester United ended up doing in their leg away. So I'm still looking at City and Tottenham as my number one, even though that was a rigged question that you gave me at the top of the show.
I think Barcelona Manchester United could be quite interesting as well.
Mm-hmm.
United, when they're in this kind of underdog role, it can work for them. And they have nothing to lose at this point. I mean, Ole Gunnar has nothing to lose at this point. He doesn't even have a job yet. So this is an opportunity for them. And I always look at it when you get a big club like that who has an opportunity as an underdog, that it's very freeing, you know? Like, all the pressure's off on Manchester United here. You can just play. And when you have the talent they have, especially up top, that's a nice recipe for success. I think Barca gets through. I do. But with Manchester United now hosting the first leg, they need to put up a number. I mean, they need a couple goals. You get a couple, even if you concede one, you get a couple to where you can look at that second leg where, all right, we can be a little smarter here, a little safer. Don't have to go on the road at Barca and look for goals. You might be able to sneak through.
Yeah. Europa League draw came out as well for their quarterfinals.
What did we get there? Anything interesting?
Yeah. Arsenal Napoli.
Ooh, that's a fun one.
Thanks for coming by. Villarreal Valencia. Benfica and Eintracht Frankfurt. And Chelsea gets Slavia Prague. So Chelsea's got to be loving life for the frozen envelope there. And Arsenal and Napoli. Ooh.
Arsenal Napoli will be a fun one. That's one that I will definitely peek in on and see how that goes. I've always had a soft spot for Napoli. Obviously, it's where Maradona went. It was the first Serie A that I ever had a chance to see on a financial news network in the 80s, because they would randomly show matches after
FNN
stock updates. Yeah. Had a chance to see Diego Maradona play with Napoli back then, and they're just such an interesting club because they're a big club, but they're outside the giants of the Italian game. They're kind of separate from all that, and their owner is almost legitimately insane. Almost, maybe not even almost. I don't even know if almost is a fair way to put it. You're going to get some crazy things said in that one. It'll be fun. It'll be fun to follow. Let's see what we get this weekend in MLS, though. There's some interesting matchups there, too. It's still, I think, we're all figuring out what's what, who is legit, who has questions, who has a lot of work to do. I don't know if anything is truly decided at this point. And the first game of the weekend, I think, is a prime example of that. Chicago hosting Seattle. You have the Sounders at 2-0. They've looked dominant. They've also played Cincinnati and Colorado. Chicago is a team that is trying not to be regarded in that way, and they've played well, but they haven't been getting results. I mean, they were the better team against the Galaxy in Week 1. Couldn't put it away. They had to come back late to get a goal to earn a point against Orlando.
Yeah.
I have no idea how this one goes.
My gut tells me Seattle, but you look at what Chicago has been doing, and Chicago has been prone to come up and get you right at the end when you think that all hope is lost. Here comes Chicago from the outside, but my gut tells me that Seattle, even though I know that you look at what they've done, and that they scored 4 against Cincinnati, and then got the grinder in week 2. I've just got to go. I've got to go with Seattle here just because of what I've seen, and it's probably going to be 2-1 for me. So I'll go Seattle full points.
Okay. The next game of the weekend could be one of those really sneaky good matches. If you want to play MLS soccer hipster this weekend, I think Columbus hosting Dallas is your game. It's definitely your game to eat some granola ahead of time and tell everybody that they missed the best game of the weekend. Because you've got two teams that I think want to play and want to play good soccer. Caleb Porter still putting his stamp on the Crew. Luchi Gonzalez, still really getting into the flow of being a professional manager, not managing the academy. I think this is going to be a really fun one to watch, and it's another one that's hard to call. The Crew have looked pretty good so far. I think they're still putting it together. Jossie's Artist gets called back into the U.S. men's national team. He's playing well. Can he continue to do what he's been doing? He's getting more touches in Caleb Porter's system. He's a little more involved than just being that number 9, finishing things in the 18. For Dallas, I want to see more of Paxton Pomykal. You're getting reports out of Spain. Marca in Spain, biggest sports paper there, does a feature on Paxton Pomykal, and they compare him to Frankie de Jong.
Wow.
Kind of out of the blue. I mean, he's a player who has shown a lot with youth national teams, a playmaker, a kid who a lot of people wanted to see more of last year, and he didn't get that time. Now, how does he respond to that type of praise? That's some heavy expectation. Can he continue to show what he's all about? I want to see this match. This is one that I'll definitely be tuning in for and want to see what these two teams look like, and can they live up to the hype?
Yeah, and I think that for me, looking at FCD, how does this young team respond on the road in an environment that can be tough? I looked at this one and I saw a shared result. I looked at this one as maybe a 1-1 or a 2-2 because of what Luchi Gonzalez is trying to build and how tough it can be going into this. So I looked at FCD basically having young guys going into a situation and not fully understanding. It's like you're fully, what is it? If you're not paying attention to the environment around you, then you'll be okay. I think that's what FCD does here, just because of the youth and just going ahead and trying to figure out who you are. I think it's probably 1-1 or 2-2. I've got a draw.
We'll run through the next couple kind of quick because they're not quite as interesting. Houston trying to bounce back from Champions League disappointment. They'll host Vancouver, who has been bad. Vancouver's one that has to show more. Marc Dos Santos, I don't think he has a complete squad yet, and Houston should take care of business here at home. Red Bulls hosting San Jose.
Yeah, your personification was about right.
Yeah, we're not going to waste more time there. Red Bulls hosting San Jose. The Quakes flying across the country. Matias Almeida took care of the Red Bulls in Champions League last year with Chivas. This is not that same level of quality
San Jose ain't Chivas.
With the Quakes. I mean, that Chivas team didn't have a ton of stars in it. Let's be real. But he hasn't had time to implement his full pressing, man-to-man, crazy different strategy all over the place. Red Bulls should be able to exploit that. We've seen little glimpses from San Jose, but it's still a big-time work in progress. Red Bulls should come in angry after what happened at Santos, and maybe they take it out on San Jose. Orlando, Montreal. Montreal had a good win in week 1 in San Jose. Orlando's battled, and they're better, and they added another center back, Robin Johnson. They might be a team that can actually push for a playoff spot. Am I crazy to say that?
No, you're not crazy. I still think that there's more work to do, but I think that Orlando is not as bad as people thought. I think we looked at week 1 and we sat there and said, okay, they might be better than we thought, and other teams might be worse than we thought. So I've looked at this one, and I admittedly have been going back and forth, but I think that the fact that it's in Orlando leans me toward draw, probably another 2-2. So this might be our favorite scoreline for Orlando this season. So I'll go 2-2 draw, and one that goes back and forth a lot. I think it's going to be open play for a great deal of it.
I'm curious to see if we have more answers on both of these teams coming out of it, because I have a lot of questions about both at this point, and I want to see if they get answered. If Safir Taider runs loose in the middle of the park, Montreal wins that match. Yep. DC hosting Real Salt Lake. This is the 8 o'clock match on Saturday. DC undefeated on the season. Real Salt Lake is one of those teams that has, I think, all the pieces, but doesn't always put it together on a regular basis. We'll see how they travel, and that was an issue last season. DC back at home should be the favorite here. If Salt Lake can get a point, I think that's a message to the Western Conference.
I don't think they get a point. I think DC gets full. I think it's 2-1.
The late game on Saturday night, LA Galaxy hosting the Minnesota United Flying Loons, who are scoring goals all over the place. The Galaxy will not have Zlatan. Achilles' injury. I mean, it's funny this week. You get a quote in the media from Guillermo Barros Escalotto about his knee that he did at Manchester United. It's all good, and he'll play on turf this year. That's all wonderful, but he's been out with an Achilles injury, and he hasn't played in a couple weeks. And now you're getting reports out of Europe that the Galaxy are scrambling to try to find another striker. That makes you think this is going to be a longer-term issue. Achilles injuries are not exactly fun ones, and they don't go away overnight. And they don't have another forward. Like, they don't have anybody else. You're playing Chris Pontius up there. You're turned into completely untested guys. I think Minnesota can go in and get 3 points.
I think they can. I don't think they do. I think
no faith in the Loons yet, huh?
No. I'm still Missouri where the Loons are concerned. I think it's probably 2-2, but it wouldn't surprise me if, because of the Galaxy not having firepower, that they don't get to 2. So I will say a guarded draw just because of road form for Minnesota in the past. And then if they get this one, they get full points. When we have this segment next Friday, then my attitudes may change.
Sunday, bunch of games on Sunday. It starts with a big one on FS1, NYCFC hosting LAFC. Get to the tailgates ahead of Atlanta and Philadelphia early and try to find a TV that has this one on. It could be a really fun one in the pinball field that is Yankee Stadium. But you get a lot of talented players like Carlos Vela, like Andrea Matricia. You get players like that. You could have some fun highlights and some fireworks in this one. It's so hard to predict at this point with NYCFC because of the way they're playing without really a true striker. I don't know where they're at yet in that development of playing false nine on a regular basis. LAFC's good, but I'm still of the mind that LAFC has to show it on a regular basis. They're showing more so far, but they have to continue to show it because they didn't do anything last year to make me think they were a contender. They haven't made any huge changes. You get another year in the system, but they have to start winning these types of games on the road, and we'll see if they can start that in New York on Sunday.
I don't think they do. I think that because of that pinball machine, I've always
You're going to pick a draw again, aren't you?
Yep.
So lame.
This shocks you?
You've picked a draw in every game, I think, except for one. You picked Seattle to beat Chicago.
I just think that there are teams still trying to figure themselves out, and because of that, you kind of neutralize yourself. So LAFC on the road, especially going from one end of the world to the other, for them it would be a noon start. And
that's always tough.
NYC,
that's a good point.
And so heading from one end of the world to the other, going to a pinball machine, I'll go draw. It might be 2-2.
The big one on FS1 in terms of what it's going to look like on TV is Cincinnati hosting Portland. I want to see if Kenny Safe is ready to start for them. if he's a starter and he plays the way he did as a substitute against Atlanta and the flashes we've seen from him in his career so far, he can make Cincinnati a good squad. They have a decent base. I think they have a good back line. I'm intrigued to see what Cincinnati's ceiling is. I've been a little bit higher on them than most, I think. Safe makes me feel a lot better about that prediction because they have a playmaker now. I want to see how it all comes together. Portland is a team that they still need a striker, and they haven't been able to get that done. They turned to Abobasi last year. Now it feels like they're not quite believing in him as the man week in and week out, and they've got a long road stretch before Providence Park is ready for them in June. Cincinnati's going to get a win here, I think.
I was going to go Portland win just because of Cincinnati's defense, and I know that all the emotion.
I think it's a better defense than you get credit for. They looked pretty good last week.
Well, if you're going to continue to do what you did and just make sure that you make it difficult in the middle 2/3 of the pitch, that's going to.
You have 100 center backs and 100 center midfielders, so I'd be playing all of them and Kenny Safe and 2 more attackers, and there you go. Cool.
Yes. So the 200-100 formation that Alan Koch is going to put out there. Yep. I mean, you're going to have Portland trying to work it in from the edges, and it's going to be on Giovanni Savarese to try to do something. I think it's going to be 2-1 Portland because I think they'll find a way, but I cannot wait to see what life is like at Nippert, and I want to see just how absolutely bananas the Bailey is going to be for this match. I want to know when they're going to open the gates. I want to know when they're going to let people inside. I don't think anybody in the Bailey is going to have a voice by the time they get on the air at 5 o'clock Eastern time, but it is going to be an absolute treat just to see FC Cincinnati in their first home match. I think it's going to be a great atmosphere, and it's going to be upside down. I don't know who's. Do you know who's calling this one for FS1?
I'm not sure. They've got the doubleheader on Sunday.
But yeah, I mean, just whoever's calling this for FS1, it's going to be one of those environments that's going to be absolutely awesome to check out.
When Fernando Adi scores twice and Cincinnati wins, their fans will find a voice, and I'll find a voice and point at you in the press box when that happens. Late night after Atlanta, 7:30, Toronto hosting New England. Toronto. We'll talk about Toronto more when they get Alejandro Pozuelo. When they get him, and they're saying he could be in the lineup after the international break on March 29th. Then we'll get a better sense of what Toronto is. New England, I have no idea. I just have no idea what New England is.
That's why I went Toronto in this one.
Colorado hosting Sporting Kansas City. Colorado has to hope for Sporting Kansas City CONCACAF hangover because I just don't see it. I think Kansas City's the best team in the West.
Yeah.
I'm not even questioning that too much at the moment. I think they're the most complete team. Really looking forward to Kansas City and Monterrey. That'll be a fun series, and we'll see where Monterrey is at that point too, because there's a couple weeks till we get there, and I want to see what Monterrey does in the league between now and then, and what kind of pressures they're facing at that stage, because it could be a little trickier for them than it was here, and Kansas City could be in even better form, and I think they continue rolling with a win in Colorado Sunday night. Let's take a break here and come back. We've got some questions on a Friday. We'll get to those. We'll also start looking ahead at Atlanta and Philadelphia. Mike Conti, Doug Roberson, join us in hour number 2. Hang out with us. We'll be right back.
Today's show is presented by Appolinsky & Associates, personal injury lawyers with over 30 years of experience, supporters of Atlanta United, Faction, and Inter-Atlanta Youth Football Club. If you've been hurt in a wreck, contact Steve today at steve@aa-legal.com or call in 24/7 at 404-377-9191. The initial consultation is free.
A ranger station.
I'd like to report a bear hug.
Okay.
I put out my campfire and Smokey Bear hugged me.
So you drowned the fire, you stirred it, drowned it again, and felt that it was cold?
Uh-huh.
Yep, he's just letting you know you did good.
Bear hug from Smokey Bear. Status update.
I'm gonna let you go now. There are many ways to start a fire, but one sure way to put it out. Learn how you can do your part at SmokeyBear.com.
Sponsored by the U.S. Forest Service, Ad Council, and your state forester.
We know that every driver is different, and a one-size policy does not fit all. That's why Country Financial offers a variety of discounts, so you get the coverage you need and the savings you deserve. From good driver to good student, multi-policy to multi-car, we've got a discount to suit every driver. Call Jason Wright at 678-568-6871 today to see what you could save. On Facebook at Jason Wright Agency, or by phone at 678-568-6871. Discounts vary by state. Policies issued by Country Mutual Insurance Company, Country Preferred Insurance Company, or Country Casualty Insurance Company, Bloomington, Illinois.
Every hiring manager knows that a company is only as good as the people it's made from. So where do you find the best people? That may surprise you.
Meet the grads of life. Young adults of unique determination and experience. An ideal fit for your company in an entry-level position, internship, or even mentorship. They might not have every qualification you typically look for, but they're exactly who your company needs.
This is talent worth knowing about.
Go to gradsoflife.org to learn how to find, cultivate, and train this great pool of untapped talent. Brought to you by the Ad Council and gradsoflife.org.
Welcome back, SDH, March 15th. It's a match day for ATL UTD 2 up at Kennesaw
Correct.
State, Fifth Third Bank Stadium. Atlanta United 2 and Louisville City tonight, the back-to-back defending champs in the USL Championship. They've been to the Eastern Conference Final in every season they've existed, and they've won back-to-back titles. But they did not get their season started on the right foot last weekend. They lost 4-1 in North Carolina against NCFC. They've lost a lot of pieces. They brought a lot of guys back, but they lost key pieces. 2 players go to Orlando. A couple guys move within USL Championship. They don't look like the same group, but you have... This is a different team than some other USL opponents ATL UTD2 will see. This is a very veteran-laden team. This is a group that has been around the block. The pieces that they've added, you're bringing in some veterans. You don't have a bunch of young guys in this team. Atlanta's going to field, what? We want to guess maybe 4 teenagers in the 18?
Yeah.
Maybe 5?
Probably. Yeah.
Probably 2, 3, or 4 starting. And Lou City will have maybe the average age. I'm going to go ahead and guess. The average age for Atlanta United starting 11 will be 21.
21.
And the average age for Lou Cities will be 26, 27.
Yeah, be about right.
Somewhere in that ballpark. Should be a good one, actually. I'm really looking forward to it. Lou City's got a lot to prove. ATL UTD2 trying to build off last week. It's at 7:30 tonight. Did I get that right?
7:36.
7:30. Oh, officially, but 7:30 at ESPN Plus. So you can watch John and I and watch that match. If you have ESPN Plus, if you don't, get it because you need it. And if you can make it to Fifth Third Bank Stadium, come join us. Should be a fun one tonight.
And it's getting off the momentum of what happened last week. I want to see how the teenagers continue to get comfortable with ATL UTD2. I mean, George Campbell was a treat. It was an absolute treat to watch. And you add in, Dion Pereira, Vasquez, Jackson Conway, got to see Will Vent a little bit. And, got to see Guillermo Benitez, who had one gear completely last week.
Oh, I like me some Benitez. He was fun.
Yeah. Yes. And so to have this group show what they showed against Hartford Athletic last week, and Hartford is continuing their 8-game road trip to start the season in Charleston this weekend. They're a treat to watch, and I like what Stephen Glass has put out there so far, and I like what I'm seeing in Double A, our enforcer, Anderson Asayadu. If you could honestly come out of that match from Hartford Athletic and you could point at pretty much everybody who showed up and you could talk about what they did and how it was a treat to see what that particular individual was working on in the match last week. And the fact that you have Louisville City coming to town, it is the test of tests. Where do you want to gauge yourself? Yes, I know that the two-time defending champ is a little different, but they're still the two-time defending champ. So where do you think you are? This is a good gauge tonight.
It's a good test. And these are the things about this league and this level and having an affiliate team, because you're going to get guys who need those tests, that you have questions about their long-term development, whether it's a player on a first-team deal like a John Gallagher and Anderson Asayadu, or guys on USL deals but have potential for more, like a Jackson Conway, Laurent Kisiadu. He's been in training this week, wasn't in the 18 last week. And academy players. George Campbell, man of the match last week. Will Vent, very confident young player coming in. Great range of passing from him as a central midfielder. Kendall Edwards has been out injured, or he would be getting time as well. Tyler Ruthven will be out tonight. I'm very curious to see how they handle that one. I wonder if we might see Florentine Pogba with another at least 45 or so, as he's trying to get back into full fitness. Get a glimpse of him with the first team Wednesday night. From what we saw last week and what we saw Wednesday, he is not ready to start and play 90 in MLS.
No.
I don't think he's ready to go 90 in USL Championship right now either. But he has to get some games, and this actually works out pretty well for him to get another run out quickly. If he can give you 45 to 60, that'd be good.
Yeah, and so with that at the back, I want to see how the lineup is tweaked, and I'm just going to enjoy seeing everyone being put out there on the pitch and just seeing the development, to be able to tell the story of the twos and of these guys from the second that they hit the pitch and see their development, where, in a couple of years' time, we can sit there and say, yeah, we saw them when they did this, knowing that their game has grown to that point. So I know that the back will be one of the big questions tonight, but I'm looking forward to this one, because if North Carolina FC was able to put 4 on Lou City in their first match, and you had a back line that was as experienced as Oscar, Paco, Craig Shantosh, and Alexi Suahi, that's an experienced lot. Dudes in their mid to late 20s, and you're going to have all this young firepower chasing after it. It's going to be fun.
Ricky Ricardo with a funny question going back to Wednesday. The Nagby goal that was called back because of a Joseph foul. Ricky Ricardo wants to know, why doesn't Joseph want Nagby to score? Does he not like him? I mean, what is it? It's kind of crazy that that's happened. And it was, again, it was the correct call. Nothing intentional. Joseph was making a run. I believe he laid it off and, kind of collided with Montes and took Montes out of the play. I mean, you have to call the
hip
foul.
Toss.
So,
yeah,
no, not even a hip. I mean, hip toss is intentional. This was just a collision. Like, Joseph didn't, grab him and throw him. Joseph just ran into him and knocked him over. So, yeah, not a hip toss at all. If Joseph is hip tossing players, I will be rather shocked if that's happening.
No, he bent down and Montez went over the top. So,
No, not even that. He just ran into him and knocked him over. It wasn't up for an aerial. Joseph laid the ball off to Nagby and just ran into him, and they both fall over, and that takes Montes out of the play. So it's unintentional, but it's a foul, and you have to call it.
It was a foul.
Yeah, Joseph is battling, I think, a little bit more this year because of the role. I love how much movement we're seeing out of Joseph, and if you get goals like the one we saw on Wednesday, where he's getting a touch on the edge of the final third or just outside the final third and combining with players to get into the 18, that makes it so much harder to deal with if you're the opposition. When he stays in the 18 and he's finishing off crosses, because you're creating great chances and he doesn't have to do as much. But when he's there, it's a little easier to deal with him. His movement, quick movement in the 18 creates some space. But when he's able to make runs from deeper positions after getting a touch or two, that's a complete forward. And that's a guy that you do not want to be facing if you're a center back in this league.
No, I like to see this development, and the rat-a-tat-tat that we saw that created the goal, the lightning thinking with Nagbe and Joseph, to see that kind of interaction and see the finish there. I think that it's something to keep an eye on, to see Joseph backtrack as much as he has. Not that he hasn't, not that he doesn't, but
he wasn't asked to. There's a big difference, because I think this was a narrative that went around a lot last year before Joseph started scoring all the goals, and then very strangely it completely disappeared.
Yeah,
he doesn't work hard enough. And look, we're hearing the same thing about Pity Martinez. I really want folks to understand that to be a good player, and especially to be a good attacking player, running around a lot is not necessarily part of that. I don't want Pity Martinez expending all of his energy running around chasing things. I want him to be able to drop a dime from 40 yards. I want him to hit a volley from just outside the 18 that almost puts a hole in the net and blows everyone's mind. I want him to nutmeg 27 players. I want him to do those things. I don't need him to track back and make a tackle. That's not his game. And again, don't compare him to Miguel Almiron and say, well, Miguel did it. Miguel was that player. Miguel added the attacking elements to his game because they weren't there before. He wasn't asked to do that before, and he showed that he can, and he's a much more complete player for it. That's great. That's not Pity's game. Now, does it become part of his game? Maybe, but I don't think so. I just don't think he's that kind of player. It's a dangerous game when you do that, and when you ask a forward like Joseph last year, 2017, it was, he doesn't work hard enough. Oh, he's always offside. This is not... I don't even think it's... I mean, the English game, it comes into this sometimes, where it's all about that... What are the very English phrases for this? 'Cause I'll go work rate a lot of times, and I think some people... Work rate doesn't mean you're a good player, bad player. It's one of your characteristics. Like, you can be a great player without having high work rate. You can be a great player with high work rate. It's not a prerequisite to be a top player, though. And I'm seeing a lot of that buzz about Pity Martinez, and it was the exact same stuff that went around about Joseph before he scored all the goals he could possibly score. Just keep these things in mind, because I really do think Pity's going to come good. I think you're going to get the best of him after the international break where he spends time with Argentina.
Right.
And after that week off, after the Columbus game. You have Sunday, you have a week off. You go to Columbus, you have a week off. You go to New England on the 13th of April, and you'll have 2 weeks in between Columbus and New England to work as a full group with your international players included. I think that's where you start to see the best of Pity. That's where that fitness feels good. That's where he feels more comfortable, and that's when you start to see him flying.
No,
I just threw about 20 different points in at one time. Sorry. So go ahead and comment on.
No. I mean, to me, it was an all-encompassing point. No, I think
it went in a million different places.
But it was still aimed at the one idea. So no, it was perfectly fine. But I think that having the one match in 26 days, I think that helps. Having everybody as a group where you're not focused on doing something on the field. I think PT going back and having time with his his national team. I think that when you're tapped and you get to go hang out with Lionel Messi, that cannot do anything but help you. And I think that, and you mentioned work rate and all that kind of stuff, and you see what certain players, or by position, I'm not saying by name, but certain players by position, they're stereotyped into an idea of, okay, well, he's supposed to do this. And if he doesn't do Y when he does X, then he's a bad player. That's not the case, because you're asked to do certain things. Joseph has not been asked to go back.
Yeah, I don't know if it's position, because some systems, some coaches want their forwards to do different things than Tata Martino did. And obviously Frank de Boer wants Joseph more involved. It's going to have him move around more. It's going to make it harder to key in on him. It makes a lot of sense for the way they're playing right now. Cool. You didn't have to do it as much before because you had different pieces. You were playing in a little bit different way. Things worked out differently. Well, also, Joseph has now set all the goal-scoring records, so teams are going to be a little more focused on Mr. Martinez. It's going to take other players stepping up to take some of that focus off. And the number 10, I mean, this is the way those function in the system now versus last year. It's very, very different. So you are asking very different things from a similar position. And manager to manager, team to team, different positions. The same position can mean different things for different teams and different managers.
And so, I mean, it's, when you have something like this, if you see a player doing things, there's the want to, because you're trying to help out and pitch in and be a team guy. And if you're asked to do certain things, you're asked to do certain things. But then there's nothing wrong with going back and pitching in, but you don't want to put yourself into the ground and not be there late in the match when you're supposed to be there doing your actual duties. So
I'll push back on that one part of that, because I think you can take it different ways. Pitching in, not pitching in. Maybe we're going to get into a spoiled and connotation type of comment here, because when I hear somebody, if we're going to follow that model and say, well, Pity Martinez isn't pitching in defensively, that sounds like a knock on him.
It does.
And it's not. It's not that he's not pitching in. It's that he's playing the role he's been asked to, and he's also playing to his characteristics.
Right.
There are games at different points of the season that call for different things. And you could get into a cup final that, it's all hands on deck. You do whatever you got to do to win. But also, not pitching in doesn't mean you're not working hard, you don't care about the team, whatever.
Correct.
The different connotations it can take. It could mean you're staying in a position to keep a shape. It could mean you are conserving your fitness level, your energy level, because you are not fully fit. It can mean that it's covered and it's not going to help to go back and make things more complicated on who's picking up what. And it can be that you're providing an outlet to get out once your teammates recover the ball. So there's so many non-negative things that can come out of that as well. It's not a positive or a negative thing about work rate. If the manager feels like, okay, I'm asking this player to do X and he's not doing it, it's a different conversation altogether. I don't think there's any issues with that right now from Pity Martinez.
No.
I just want to remind people that a lot of the criticisms of Pity have been heard before, and a lot of them are recycled ones from comments about Joseph. It was early last season, and correct me if I'm wrong, it was fairly early in 2018 that a fan told Joseph to work harder as he was coming back out to the field. Yeah. And Leandro Gonzalez Perez had to get in between the fan and Joseph Martinez in the club area. That wasn't that long ago.
No.
And it was ridiculous then. Don't let that stuff get in here about Pity Martinez. I've seen that growing, and I would love to try to nip it in the bud, because he is doing what he is asked to do. And it's funny because right now I have Univision Deportes up on the TV muted, and it's the football in 30, the condensed version of the match from Wednesday. And there was a whole lot of Pity Martinez highlights in that first half. Go back and look at them. There's a bunch of them. 40-yard shot that forced an amazing save from Baravero. Shot from the corner that nearly curled in. A moment early in the match as well. He kind of scuffed a volley. It's coming. but he doesn't have to run around like Barco did as a substitute in the postseason last year to impress people. And he's not going to. So don't expect it. He is going to do things that will leave your jaw dropped, and he's going to do it his way. And he's going to do it within the construct of the team. And I really do think it's going to work out, and I think it's going to work out in the next month, 6 weeks, where you get it after that New England game. You get into that New England game, and you're going to see a different version of Pity Martinez than what we've seen so far. And I'm really looking forward to it. I just those takes were kind of eating at me a little bit that he doesn't work hard enough, and I wanted to speak on it a little bit. Sorry about that.
Yeah. No, go for it. I was right there with you. So I yielded the floor there, and it was perfectly legitimate. No, I'm hearing the same things, and I think that you got to stop that kind of stuff because you have someone who's not fully 90 minutes match fit. You have someone who's the new kid in school. Yeah.
All that stuff's there too, and it definitely plays into it, but it's not his game either. You didn't ask Diego Maradona to go running around chasing things down. You didn't ask Juan Ramon Riquelme to go running around chasing things down. You don't ask Lionel Messi to do it. You don't ask Cristiano Ronaldo to do it. You don't ask players like that. And don't come at me that Pity Martinez isn't at that level and he has to do more because he's not at that level. He's a player of that ilk and can have that type of impact. And I don't want him blowing his energy, running 40 yards back to chase something down to show that he's working hard. We know his quality. I don't need to see that from him. Let's take a break here and get into a couple more tweets before we get to the top of the hour. Mike Conti joining us at 10 o'clock. Doug Roberson joining us at 10:30 as we get ready for Atlanta and Philadelphia. We'll be right back.
As a business owner, you know that every year brings new challenges and opportunities. The success of your business demands expertise and focus. And Country Financial can help you keep that focus by helping ensure you have the right insurance protection in place to meet your goals. Jason Wright can help you create a customized insurance plan that has coverages designed just for your business. Give Jason a call at 678-568-6871 or reach him on Facebook at Jason Wright Agency. Coverages vary by state. Policies issued by Country Mutual Insurance Company, Bloomington, Illinois.
Got issues with youth or high school sports? Positive Coaching Alliance can help. PCA is a national nonprofit working to transform youth and high school sports so that every child has a positive character-building youth sports experience. PCA provides live and online workshops to train double-goal coaches whose first goal is winning and whose second, more important goal is teaching life lessons through sports. PCA also has workshops for parents and high school student-athletes. For more information, please visit positivecoach.org.
If you've been hurt in a car wreck, contact my friend Steve Apolinsky of Apolinsky and Associates. He's been representing individuals for over 30 years throughout Georgia and Alabama. Email him at steve@aa-legal.com or call him 24/7 at 404-377-9191. The initial consultation is free.
I adopted Bento in 2010 from a shelter. This cat makes me make art. He's always motivating me to draw pictures of him. He just is motivating artistically. He's my best friend, but a lot of people know him as Keyboard Cat.
Keyboard Cat, YouTube star and shelter pet. Amazing adoption stories start in shelters. Start yours today. Visit theshelterpetproject.org to find a pet near you. Brought to you by Maddie's Fund, the Humane Society of the United States, and the Ad Council.
Welcome back. Soccer Down here. March 15th. Question on the floor from Tony Jabroni. Another one of the great Twitter names we have in the SDH universe. One of the consistent criticisms with Nagbe is his consistency in the final third. Do we think a Nagbe-Joseph pairing would help Nagbe? Is Nagbe going to step up? Yeah, that's been a thing. I think people look at his talent and say, oh, well, he could be a number 10. Oh, he could score a bunch of goals. He could do this. I don't know if that's really his game. I think he's a number 8. I think he's a linking player. Yeah. But what was impressive about Wednesday is he did step up into that role when things shifted around, and he played up higher, and he had that great combination play with Joseph. I don't think a true pairing with him and Joseph is ever going to be a thing. I don't think Nagbe as a number 10 on a regular basis is going to be a thing. I think when he can make runs from deeper positions, he's a dangerous player. I think when he is a number 10 higher up in the formation, you're taking away some of the special things about Darlington Nagbe. So as where I think this formation could go, and I'm basing this off of some of the things Frank DeBoer said after the match and what he said at the very beginning. I think he'd love to be in a 4-3-3. And I do think when Franco Escobar is back, he's going to play a 4-3-3. And I think part of that 4-3-3 is going to be the way he played it at Ajax, which was different than the 4-2-3-1 that had 2 holding midfielders and 1 number 10. I think it's going to be flipped. I think it'll be Eric Remedi by himself in front of the back 4 and 2 more attack-minded players. I think Nagbe's going to be one of those, and I do think he's going to thrive in that system. I think if you have a situation where it is Nagbe and let's say Barco, that's where I would play Barco. Nagbe and Barco there together with Pitti out wide on the left, Tito out wide on the right, and Joseph up top. I think Nagbe thrives in that system. I really do. It's not quite the pairing that Tony Jabroni's talking about, but I think it gets Nagbe in the best fit for his skill set.
I've always viewed Darlington Nagbe, I guess depending on your sports metaphor, I've always viewed him as the equivalent of a basketball point guard. And it's about that point guard finding the open guy, sometimes slowing the offense down to make sure that they can get into the right offensive set, slowing things down off of a turnover if the break isn't there, figuring out, okay, if somebody's available down on the block, I need to get the ball to him so we can get a quick 2 and get back. So that's been my perspective. And to see what Darlington did with Joseph, to me, it was a point guard having a 2-man game with the open guy, or with the guy that you wanted to get close to the basket to get the bucket. So I've just always viewed him in that way, as that calming influence, the guy that can sit there and find the open man and run the offense when needed and get out of jams if you think that you need to work something out and slow things down, calm things down. So at times, to me, he's been an offensive lineman where you only talk about him if he does something bad, but most of the time I've always viewed him as that point guard in this offense to sit there and find the open guy.
Yeah, he's all about moving the ball around, and sometimes it's not so much even him finding the open guy, it's switching the field to give somebody else the opportunity to find the open guy. And that's the type of stuff that he does so well, and I wouldn't want to see that taken away from his game by playing as a true number 10 or out on the wing, although he can because he's that good of a player. It's going to be fun to see. I kind of think that's where we're headed, though. I think just based off Frank's comments, I do think we're looking at 4-3-3 with 2 number 10s behind the striker, and Nagbe will be one of those guys. And it's a little more deep-lying than a traditional number 10 who has 2 guys behind him. He'll have a 2-way game to have to play, but I think it'll really fit his skill set. It'll be a lot of fun. Let's take our final break of hour number 1 right here. We'll be back right after this.
Today's show is presented by Appolinsky and Associates, personal injury lawyers with over 30 years of experience, supporters of Atlanta United, Faction, and Inter-Atlanta Youth Football Club. If you've been hurt in a wreck, contact Steve today at steve@aa-legal.com or call in 24/7 at 404-377-9191. The initial consultation is free.
A ranger station.
I'd like to report a bear hug.
Okay.
I put out my campfire and Smokey Bear hugged me.
So you drowned the fire, you stirred it, drowned it again, and felt that it was cold?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, but he's just letting you know you did good.
Bear hug from Smokey Bear. Status update.
I'm gonna let you go now. There are many ways to start a fire, but one sure way to put it out. Learn how you can do your part at SmokeyBear.com.
Sponsored by the U.S. Forest Service Ad Council and your state forester.
We know that every driver is different, and a one-size policy does not fit all. That's why Country Financial offers a variety of discounts, so you get the coverage you need and the savings you deserve. From good driver to good student, multi-policy to multi-car, we've got a discount to suit every driver. Call Jason Wright at 678-568-6871 today to see what you could save. On Facebook at Jason Wright Agency or by phone at 678-568-6871. Discounts vary by state. Policies issued by Country Mutual Insurance Company, Country Preferred Insurance Company, or Country Casualty Insurance Company, Bloomington, Illinois.
Every hiring manager knows that a company is only as good as the people it's made from. So where do you find the best people? That may surprise you.
Meet the grads of life. Young adults of unique determination and experience. An ideal fit for your company in an entry-level position, internship, or even mentorship. They might not have every qualification you typically look for, but they're exactly who your company needs.
This is talent worth knowing about.
Go to gradsoflife.org to learn how to find, cultivate, and train this great pool of untapped talent. Brought to you by the Ad Council and gradsoflife.org.
Final segment, hour number 1, soccer down here. Getting ready for Atlanta and Philadelphia. I think the big question for Philly is how do they replace Marco Fabian? Red card in the last match. There's talk out of Jim Curtin in his media availability this week that he's not afraid to turn to recent homegrown signing Brandon Aronson. Teenager. Playmaker, one of the rare American number 10s developed here. Player who has been very impressive with youth national teams. I want to see if they have the guts to go there. My initial feeling was that it'd be Ilsinho, and they would go with the veteran and keep the 4-4-2 diamond with Ilsinho at the point of the diamond leading the attack. I like these comments about Aronson. I'd like to see him. I'd like to see what he can bring to the table on Sunday.
Yeah, and for those who are in our fantasy league or looking to join the fantasy league, maybe he might be a good pickup for the league this weekend as a one-off, just to try to see things, and then you stash him on your bench.
Yeah, and that's definitely something to look at. I think he's going to get time. Even if it's not as a starter, I think he's going to get time this weekend. I think he's going to make his MLS debut this weekend, just judging from some of the comments that were made. All right, let's take a break. Let's get set for Mike Conti to join us after the break, get his thoughts on Wednesday, now that we're away from it a little bit, on CONCACAF Champions League as a whole, but looking ahead to Philadelphia and how important of a match Sunday is for Atlanta United. We'll talk to Mike after the break. Stay with us.
As a business owner, you know that every year brings new challenges and opportunities. The success of your business demands expertise and focus. And Country Financial can help you keep that focus by helping ensure you have the right insurance protection in place to meet your goals. Jason Wright can help you create a customized insurance plan that has coverages designed just for your business. Give Jason a call at 678-568-6871 or reach him on Facebook at Jason Wright Agency. Coverages vary by state. Policies issued by Country Mutual Insurance Company, Bloomington, Illinois.
Got issues with youth or high school sports? Positive Coaching Alliance can help. PCA is a national nonprofit working to transform youth and high school sports so that every child has a positive character-building youth sports experience. PCA provides live and online workshops to train double-goal coaches whose first goal is winning and whose second, more important goal is teaching life lessons through sports. PCA also has workshops for parents and high school student athletes. For more information, please visit positivecoach.org.
If you've been hurt in a car wreck, contact my friend Steve Apolinsky of Apolinsky and Associates. He's been representing individuals for over 30 years throughout Georgia and Alabama. Email him at steve@aa-legal.com or call him 24/7 at 404-377-9191. The initial consultation is free.
I adopted Bento in 2010 from a shelter. This cat makes me make art. He's always motivating me to draw pictures of him. He just is motivating artistically. He's my best friend, but a lot of people know him as Keyboard Cat.
Keyboard Cat, YouTube star and shelter pet. Amazing adoption stories start in shelters. Start yours today. Visit theshelterpetproject.org to find a pet near you. Brought to you by Maddie's Fund, the Humane Society of the United States, and the Ad Council.
You're listening to Soccer Down Here daily on SDH Networks, a division of OSG Sports. Find us at Soccer Down Here on Facebook and Twitter. The time is now the top of the hour. Peep, y'all.
Welcome back. Hour number 2, Soccer Down Here, March 15th. It's a 5-stripe Friday ahead of Sunday's match with the Philadelphia Union coming to town. But we've got Mike Conti on the line now. What's up, Mike?
Hey, guys. What's going on?
Before we get into Philadelphia, I want to get your final reflections on CONCACAF Champions League and Wednesday night against Monterrey.
It's amazing how the sky did not fall. That's really something because we've heard some of that over the last 3 or 4 weeks. But I thought Atlanta United, look, they didn't do enough to go through. That was a very, very tall mountain to climb. But to really play evenly at worst, maybe better at best than Monterrey for 90 minutes was a real accomplishment for this club and hopefully a big confidence booster. I thought they played great. I thought they did enough to create enough scoring chances where you could get 3 or 4 goals and move through. The defending, obviously, you can't understate how good the defensive performance was. You did have the one scramble where Lorenowitz got a little bit caught out. And they hit the crossbar twice in a sequence. But other than that, playing with guys with very tired legs like Michael Parkhurst and even Miles Robinson, a young guy, but I'm sure he's feeling it now as much as he's played. That was a great performance. It was good to see the energy come back. It was good to see forwards getting in behind defenders. It was good to see a very animated, passionate crowd really propelling this team, especially after they got the goal with about 15 minutes to play. So it was a lot of the elements of Atlanta United the way that we loved them last year. Now you got to follow it up. And that's the thing, because if you don't get a good result on Sunday, then all the goodwill, all the confidence that you've built from Wednesday night's performance goes away. And worse yet, it goes away with you not playing again until the end of the month, which means it's something that is going to linger. It's something that we're going to be talking about for 2 weeks. So very, very important to get something positive. But I had a great time with the tournament. I wish it could have lasted longer for Atlanta United. I really fell in love with this tournament over the last couple of weeks. I was kind of a newbie to CONCACAF Champions League before this year, but it was a lot of fun, a great opportunity for Atlanta United. And I am relatively certain that this is only the start of Atlanta United's CONCACAF Champions League history and not the end of it.
Let me get into the MLS on the whole involvement from 30,000 feet. And we saw what happened to Red Bulls, or pretty much what Red Bulls did to themselves. We saw Houston going up against Santos Laguna, and it was about what was expected. Toronto in the first round losing to Independiente. Atlanta United doing what they were doing and getting the win at Mercedes-Benz, and then you see what Sporting has been able to do in their bracket because of Toronto FC getting bumped out by Independiente. With MLS sides getting knocked out early, just what is your 30,000-foot perspective on MLS in the tournament itself?
Well, I think, John, as it comes to this year, I would say only one MLS team has underperformed. Dramatically underperformed, and that was Toronto. I think Red Bulls, it was disappointing the way they went out to Santos Laguna, but at least they got to the quarterfinal. Toronto just completely underperformed. They lost to a team that in terms of quality, they should not have lost to. Atlanta United got a very, very tough draw. Houston Dynamo, they are what they are. They got a tough draw. They're the U.S. Open Cup champs. Sporting Kansas City, good for them. They're kind of carrying the flag now for MLS. I'll be anxious to see them against Monterrey because unlike Atlanta United, SKC will have the benefit of 7 or 8 competitive matches under their belt by the time they get to that series against Monterey in early April. So we'll see what that's about. But it's like we've been saying all week. It's going to be tough for MLS to close this gap until the salary restrictions are loosened. And I don't know what the best way is to do it in a way that you would appease the owners of all 27 clubs in MLS. I don't know if there is a way to do that, because you still have clubs that I think are very, very skittish about loosening the purse strings, to use a Darren Eales term. As far as getting the schedules to sync up in such a way where Atlanta United and other MLS teams will at least have a little bit of a running start going into CONCACAF Champions League play. Carlos Bocanegra spoke about it last hour on 92.9 The Game. There really is not a perfect solution to that. If you push things later into the spring, you get into trouble with the playoffs in Mexico and other countries. If you push it into the summer, now you're interfering with FIFA's international window, which screws up Gold Cup and World Cup qualifying and all of that. If you push it into the fall, you're too close to Club World Cup and you're during the MLS playoffs. So I don't know if there really is a way for MLS to address that. I think one step that will help, it's been something that really hasn't been discussed too terribly much because I don't think it's been officially announced, but everything I've heard is that the MLS season will start a month earlier next year. And this is a response to the season ending earlier. They didn't want to start the season a month earlier this year because there'd be no off season from 2018 going into 2019. So if you're starting the MLS season on the first weekend of February, maybe the first weekend after the Super Bowl, that probably helps a little. Doesn't help a lot, but it helps a little. I think getting MLS clubs to be able to spend, at least in a similar way to the Mexican clubs, is the first big step. But I would also say that the gap's closing. Don't you feel like it's closing a little bit? I mean, Toronto almost did it last year. Sporting Kansas City, let's see what they do this year. Even if they get to the final, I think that's a good accomplishment for them. And then we'll see what they do against Santos Laguna and Tigres. So I think the gap is closing. I don't want this perception out there that MLS is just so far at a disadvantage, so far behind what Liga MX can do right now, because quite frankly, and it's thanks to a performance from Toronto last year, I think now you can make the argument that gap is getting a little bit closer.
Yeah, I think the top level gap is right there. I don't think there's even much of a gap at the top level of the rosters, at the top level of the teams. It's minimal. It's the depth overall between the two leagues and the depth within the rosters that I think you see that gap kind of play out. And being early in the season and not having extra money to spend and not being fully fit, and not having, if you have to turn to player 15 on your overall depth chart, they probably haven't played at this stage for an MLS team. And we saw Vasquez come in for Monterrey on Wednesday, and he had a couple games under his belt because they've played more games. So you're able to go deeper into your roster in terms of match sharpness as well. We'll get more into CONCACAF. We'll see what Kansas City does against Monterrey as we get into April. But let's look ahead to Sunday. How important is it for you that Atlanta gets a win here? I said it's not a must-win. I said it's a need-to-win, just under a must-win. But I think this is a huge game.
Yeah, and I'm kind of feeling the same way that I felt going into the Cincinnati game, where anything less than a multi-goal win is going to be a letdown for me, a disappointment. And look, full credit to Philadelphia. I think the stat that you've been mentioning over the last few days, Jason, about how they lead the league in expected goals is very, very important. I think sometimes you look just at score lines, you look just at the fact that they haven't won a match yet, and you assume, okay, this is the worst team in MLS coming in, or at least in the East. You should be able to take care of them. And it's not that simple. And Jim Curtin has played a very attacking style against Atlanta United in the 2 years, or in the 2 matches they played last year. So, I think Philadelphia is going to come in here and probably score a goal or two. As well as Atlanta United has defended, as well as they've defended at home, I think Philadelphia comes in and scores a goal or two. I'm going to see Atlanta United with a goleada. It's a long time coming. We saw it against Herediano. I think Herediano tactically played right into Atlanta United's hands. Here's a situation where Philadelphia could play tactically into Atlanta United's hands if they decide they want to try to play wide open. And that could really allow Atlanta United to finally put the speed that we know they have, we just haven't been able to see it yet, on parade. I will not feel good, though, if this is anything less than a multi-goal win, because Philadelphia is without Fabian, their best player, on a red card. Dojkal's gone. I look at them now for Sunday and who's going to lead them. And I don't know if I really have an answer to that question yet. We might not get the answer until we see the team sheet. If Atlanta United is truly, one of the elite teams in the Eastern Conference, like we think they are, they've got to get a good result Sunday and get to that international window. And I think the fact that you only play one match in 26 days after Sunday is going to give Frank de Boer the ability to have those conversations today and tomorrow. Can you give me 90 minutes? And I think most of the answers will be in the affirmative, because all you have to do is get through this match on Sunday. Give me 75 minutes. Give me 80 minutes, and then, go to Naples or go to, West Palm Beach or Boca or Hilton Head or whatever, and disconnect for a little while. So from that sense, knowing that I think Frank de Boer is going to be able to play first choice on Sunday, and that the extra day of regen, you're playing Wednesday, Sunday, not Thursday, Sunday, like you did Herediano to DC United, and you're not traveling. I feel pretty good about the spot that Atlanta United is in coming into this match.
Post-match in the mix zone, Michael Parkhurst basically intimated that it's just something that you're going to have to push through right now, and you just have that one match left. So, obviously LGP is back in. Are you expecting as something as incredibly close to first choice as humanly possible, knowing that this is the last match going in? Is there a tweak in your mind?
I think if there was a tweak, John, it would be Bello. Is he 90 minutes fit? I would tend to be pessimistic on that, because if he wasn't 90 minutes fit for Wednesday, it's a pretty short turnaround to get 90 minutes fit for Sunday. Don't want to rule that out. I mean, it's possible. That would be the tweak if there is one. I think you'd probably see Bello come in. If Bello can play three in the back, LGP, Parkhurst, Robinson, Bello on the left, Gressel on the right, I think Lorenowitz might get the day off, although I would be tempted to give Remedi a day off. I think Remedi is the one right now where that's kind of glaring. Like, this guy has played so much and put in such a work rate. You'd really like to buy him a day off. So maybe it's Lorenowitz for Remedi. Shea would come out. I think you got to go with Nagbe. He's hot right now. Nagbe really changed the game for them on Thursday when he moved up higher. I think you've got to keep going with Nagbe. And then up top, I think you're still Pitti, Barco coming off one of his better performances in some time, and Martinez. That would be my 11. If Bello can't go, then I think you've got a question about Mikey Ambrose or Breck Shea. And based on what I saw Wednesday, I would not hesitate to play Mikey Ambrose again. I think he's been just fine. That's how I see it. I think you can do it. I think you can go relatively first choice. You did buy Barco a little bit of time at the end of that match. You bought on Wednesday. You bought Pitti a little bit of time at the end of that match. You bought Parker some time. I think my questions would be more, what will the 18 look like? And I think what happens tonight up in Kennesaw, the match that you guys have, will give us some clues on that.
Let's talk a little bit more about Miles Robinson, because as much as we have, I don't think we've talked about him enough. This is a guy who completely shut down the best striker in the last few years in Mexico, in Rogelio Funes Mori, and a player who I think he's been Atlanta United's best player so far in 2019.
Fully agree. And if you don't follow USMNT videos on Twitter, give them a follow today. Because they basically put together a 2.5-minute video of all of his touches. Zip ahead to the 30-second mark when Funes Mori gets in behind, and Miles is able to track back, win the ball without fouling, and play it out into the corner. Miles has been a grown man this year. He dominated Funes Mori. I mean, I think we can go to that extent. We can say that Miles Robinson dominated one of the best attacking players on this continent over the last couple of years. He dominated him on Wednesday. So you're really, really starting to get excited now, aren't you, with what you're seeing out of him, because it's been consistent. It's not like, oh, it's just one good game here. He was really, really good. Otherwise, he's been just okay. I mean, I think he's been man of the match for Atlanta United in just about all of their matches so far this year. Ardiano might be a little bit of the outlier, the one in Kennesaw, only because he scored 4 goals and Miles didn't have to do a whole lot. But it just feels like, and Jason, you can probably speak to this better than I, that Atlanta United has not really had a player in its 3-year history with the same kind of athletic toolbox that Miles Robinson has. His speed, his long stride, his closing ability, the fact that he's tall, it can be a target on set pieces. Don't know if you noticed, they had him targeted on a corner late in that Monterey match on Wednesday that he just kind of missed on. And poise. He's got a lot of poise, a lot of calmness. He doesn't panic. You don't see him very animated with the referee. You don't see him very animated, with his teammates. He's just very, very poised. And to me, this makes him a very, very unique player in the 3-year history of this club, where he's got some athletic ability. And I think it mainly has to do with his dimensions, the fact that he's so tall and a little bit thick. He's got some athletic dimensions that I don't think we've really seen too much with this club. And it's really a testament to Carlos Bocanegra finding this guy at the Super Draft in 2017 and selecting him. I wasn't following it that closely back then, so I don't know what his combine was like. I don't know really too much about how he looked collegiately, but it's an investment in a Super Draft pick that has paid off to the point right now where he's probably right behind Aaron Long as the best American-born center back playing right now. Or if he's not right behind him, he's at the top of the list.
He's in that mix for sure. You have some players in Europe who are probably, I think they're definitely ahead of him on the overall national team depth chart right now based on their history. But with an Olympic qualifying round coming up here soon at the U23 level, to me it is an absolute no-brainer that Miles Robinson is part of that group. And he could end up as good as Julian Gressel has been out of the 2017 draft. You look at the rest of the players in that draft, Lalas Abubakar was picked 5th, 3 behind Miles Robinson. Ja'Cory Hayes was number 18. A lot of minutes for him in Dallas. Beyond that, Miles Robinson could be the best player in that draft. And I think long-term he could be the best player in the draft, period, across the board. And that's not discounting Gressel. That's saying Robinson's ceiling is that high.
Well, and who's he playing for? That's the other element to this, too. And I'm not saying that he didn't get the same kind of mentoring under Tata Martino. I mean, Tata was an outstanding manager. Now you're playing for a legendary former center back in Frank DeBoer. And I think this is something that the three of us got very excited about when we were hearing, they might hire Carlos Pullo. And they didn't, but they hired Frank DeBoer. We thought that this could be a really, really good opportunity for guys like Miles Robinson, to an extent George Bello, to an extent Franco Escobar, to an extent Mikey Ambrose. Guys who play in the back are going to be able to learn a lot kind of one-on-one from Frank DeBoer. And we don't get to see training. I mean, I don't know how much one-on-one mentorship there really is from a technical standpoint, but I have to think a big part of Miles' development, and it's been recent, has been being able to interact with and have conversations with Frank DeBoer over the last 2 or 3 months.
Definitely helps. And don't forget he's on a Generation Adidas deal, so he's not counting against your cap. So it's very helpful in that regard, too, although I would assume that he graduates Generation Adidas at the end of the season. And, yep, you're going to have to figure out some things cap-related to him. You'd love to have him locked up for a long period of time in red and black stripes. Mike, what final thoughts on Philadelphia. What are you looking forward to about Sunday?
Are we going to have a double red card in the first 10 minutes like we had last year?
There you go.
Fun. That would be fun. One of the combatants in there, both of them, I guess. Hopefully they've chilled out a little bit. I think
I don't know about Madunian.
Yeah, he's a little crusty. I just think, look, as I said, here's an opportunity. I think Atlanta United really has a good opportunity now, knowing that they don't have a couple matches still ahead of them, including one against the best team in the hemisphere, which was, kind of staring them right in the face last Sunday against Cincinnati. A Cincinnati team that really played a loaded box against them and made it very, very tricky for Atlanta United to get behind them. I admire Jim Curtin for wanting to play wide open against Atlanta United. It usually makes for very fun matches, sometimes very tense matches. The fans will have a great time watching it. But I think here is a real opportunity now for Atlanta United to just get something positive going into that international break. I really feel good about Atlanta United after the break, where you give Pitti an opportunity to go to Argentina, or you give Joseph an opportunity to go to Venezuela, Tito an opportunity to go down to Paraguay and get some international work. That could be a good reset point, too, for those three particular players. But then you go to Columbus, manageable. You have another week off. Then you play, Dallas, New England. You've got Colorado. You've got some manageable matches coming up after this international break. We all love CONCACAF Champions League. It was awesome for Atlanta United to have the opportunity to play in it. It's over now. It doesn't have to be burdensome anymore. You aren't burdened by the travel. You aren't burdened by the lack of training. Have a good day of training today. Stay healthy. Get 3 points on Sunday. And then we can all take a deep breath. Because if you get 3 points on Sunday, you're on 4. You're top 7 in the East in all likelihood. You might even be in the top 2 or 3 in the East because no one's running away with it right now. And then I think we can clear our heads as a fan base, as a group of people that really loves this team, and keep it moving. Philadelphia, I think, is a good opponent to be facing this week. And there are very few in MLS I would rather face than them with where Atlanta United is at this point in time. But do not take for granted that Philadelphia is going to create scoring opportunities with that expected goal stat again. And from that standpoint, I think we could have a lot of goals and a very, very entertaining match on Sunday.
And broadcast plans for Sunday?
We're on Star 94.1 again. This will be the last one of the year before we go back to 92.9 the game. So 6:30 on Sunday on Star 94.1, kickoff at 7. Jason and I will have the AT&T countdown to kickoff as well on the Atlanta United Facebook page. Don't forget about that. And then we can all take a break for a week. And I'll do Hawks games for a week, and then we can move on to Columbus.
Thanks, Mike. I'll see you on Sunday.
All right, guys. Have a good call tonight, by the way.
Appreciate it.
Thanks.
Mike Conti, 929. Make sure you're following him on Twitter. We're going to take a break, come back. Doug Roberson from the AJC joins us at 10:30. We'll be right back.
Today's show is presented by Appolinsky and Associates, personal injury lawyers with over 30 years of experience, supporters of Atlanta United, Faction, and Inter-Atlanta Youth Football Club. If you've been hurt in a wreck, contact Steve today at steve@aa-legal.com or call in 24/7 at 404-377-9191. The initial consultation is free.
A ranger station.
I'd like to report a bear hug.
Okay.
I put out my campfire and Smokey Bear hugged me.
So you drowned the fire, you stirred it, drowned it again, and felt that it was cold?
Uh-huh.
Yep, he's just letting you know you did good.
Bear hug from Smokey Bear. Status update.
I'm gonna let you go now. There are many ways to start a fire, but one sure way to put it out. Learn how you can do your part at SmokeyBear.com.
Sponsored by the U.S. Forest Service Ad Council and your state forester.
We know that every driver is different, and a one-size policy does not fit all. That's why Country Financial offers a variety of discounts, so you get the coverage you need and the savings you deserve. From good driver to good student, multi-policy to multi-car, we've got a discount to suit every driver. Call Jason Wright at 678-568-6871 today to see what you could save. On Facebook at Jason Wright Agency or by phone at 678-568-6871. 888-568-6871. Discounts vary by state. Policies issued by Country Mutual Insurance Company, Country Preferred Insurance Company, or Country Casualty Insurance Company, Bloomington, Illinois.
Every hiring manager knows that a company is only as good as the people it's made from. So where do you find the best people? That may surprise you.
Meet the grads of life. Young adults of unique determination and experience. An ideal fit for your company in an entry-level position, internship, or even mentorship. They might not have every qualification you typically look for, but they're exactly who your company needs.
This is talent worth knowing about.
Go to gradsoflife.org to learn how to find, cultivate, and train this great pool of untapped talent. Brought to you by the Ad Council and gradsoflife.org.
Welcome back. SDH, March 15th. Getting ready for Atlanta and Philadelphia. Getting ready for ATL UTD2 and Louisville City tonight. Questions on the floor. Let's start with Chris Kilroy. Sunday seems like the perfect opportunity to give Tito a start and give Pitti some rest. Bring Pitti in as a second-half sub for Joseph or Barco as needed. Yeah. Again, though, and I think I said this going into Wednesday as well, if he feels like playing these minutes is going to help him round into form quicker, give him the minutes. If he's comfortable with coming off the bench, I think it might help. I think it might take a little bit of the pressure off. It might make things a little smoother, a little easier. But Pitti Martinez is that big of a player that you want to make sure he's on the same page with whatever you want to do with him minutes-wise, in my book. I think if he wants to play and feels like that's going to help him find his top form faster, he plays.
Yeah, I go up and I ask him. It's like, okay, how are you rounding into form? You want to start? He says yes. You start him. If he thinks he needs to come in and for 30 minutes and run like hell, then that's what you do. But I still am of the mind of starting him and letting him try to get into a rhythm, even though we know what the schedule is going to be like, at least for Atlanta United after the match with Philly. So for me, it's Pitti's choice.
Yeah, that's the way I leave it. I mean, there's some players that you have to do that with, and I think he is one of those types of players. But a game to give Tito a start, absolutely agree. And would honestly have no problem, as well as Barco played, if you feel like you want to give Tito the start in place of Barco, if Pitti wants to play to get rounded into form, I'm okay with that too. And I think you figure it out. Let's come back to more questions after we have Doug on. Let's take a break here, get Doug Roberson on the line. We'll get our predictions for Sunday. We'll see what Doug thinks after Wednesday night and what he thinks about Sunday coming up. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
As a business owner, you know that every year brings new challenges and opportunities. The success of your business demands expertise and focus. And Country Financial can help you keep that focus by helping ensure you have the right insurance protection in place to meet your goals. Jason Wright can help you create a customized insurance plan that has coverages designed just for your business. Give Jason a call at 678-568-6871 or reach him on Facebook at Jason Wright Agency. Coverages vary by state. Policies issued by Country Mutual Insurance Company, Bloomington, Illinois.
Got issues with youth or high school sports? Positive Coaching Alliance can help. PCA is a national nonprofit working to transform youth and high school sports so that every child has a positive character-building youth sports experience. PCA provides live and online workshops to train double goal coaches whose first goal is winning and whose second, more important goal is teaching life lessons through sports. PCA also has workshops for parents and high school student athletes. For more information, please visit positivecoach.org.
If you've been hurt in a car wreck, contact my friend Steve Apolinsky of Apolinsky and Associates. He's been representing individuals for over 30 years throughout Georgia and Alabama. Email him at steve@aa-legal.com or call him 24/7 at 404-377-9191. The initial consultation is free.
I adopted Bento in 2010 from a shelter. This cat makes me make art. He's always motivating me to draw pictures of him. He just is motivating artistically. He's my best friend, but a lot of people know him as Keyboard Cat.
Keyboard Cat, YouTube star and shelter pet. Amazing adoption stories start in shelters. Start yours today. Visit theshelterpetproject.org to find a pet near you. Brought to you by Maddie's Fund, the Humane Society of the United States, and the Ad Council.
Welcome back. Soccer Down here. Friday, March 15th. It's time to make some predictions, and thanks to our sponsor, Steve Apolinsky and Associates. Make sure you vote in the Bailey Daily poll, JBailey86 on Twitter. Right now, people are thinking Atlanta wins by 2+ goals. 57% of the peeps are there. 29% Atlanta wins by 1 goal. 11% draw. 3% Philadelphia wins. Before we get there, let's get some thoughts about Wednesday night from our friend Doug Roberson of the Atlanta Journal-Constitution. What's up, Doug?
How are y'all doing?
Doing well. I asked Mike Conti the same thing just a bit ago. Now that we've had a little bit of time to reflect, what are your final thoughts on the CONCACAF Champions League run and the series with Monterrey?
I just go back to some of the stuff that the previous manager, Gerardo Martino, talked about, and that you have to learn how to compete in these events. And I think Atlanta United probably took some lessons from this Champions League that will apply to the next one, probably about formation changes and tactics and just kind of what's required to compete against international competition. And probably a little bit of game management, too. I think they learned some lessons about that.
Then what about from the league perspective, I guess, as you look at MLS's participation in it? You know, I asked Mike what he thought, but you saw what Red Bulls didn't do in their second leg. You saw what Houston was doing going up against Tigres, Atlanta United, what they did, Toronto getting bumped out early, Sporting knocking off Independiente and getting into the semis. What are some of your takeaways from MLS's involvement? And I know that when we were in the mix zone together, we were asking Atlanta United players about how things could be different, should be different. What about your ideas from an MLS perspective about how to get closer to winning this competition?
I think they need to start their season a little bit earlier so that the players have their competitive legs under them and the coaches have their kind of coaching instincts sparking again. I think they need to relax the financial rules a little bit so that teams can have some more depth. And I think we talked about this on Wednesday. You know, MLS tends to kind of make up some rules as they go. I think that teams that are competing in this Champions League need some sort of financial allowance that maybe other teams aren't getting as a reward for competing, to allow them to either get a fourth DP or some more TAM to sign some more depth or something like that. Because, I mean, Mexico, Monterrey had, I don't know what the equivalent of how many DPs in Major League Soccer on their roster, and some more on the bench. It's just, it's a competitive imbalance that's not Mexico's fault. It's entirely MLS's fault. But it needs to be fixed if the league wants to truly compete. And if it doesn't want to truly compete, then it doesn't need to compete.
Let's talk about Philadelphia coming to town on Sunday. This is a team that for the last 2 years has felt like it's ready to break through. They create a lot of chances. They don't score enough goals for the chances they create. It's been the same story this year. And now you're going to be missing the guy who's created a lot of those chances so far this season, Marco Fabian. What challenges do you think the Union present on Sunday?
They still got a good defense.
Mm-hmm.
And Atlanta United really still has not shown it can break down even an average defense so far. Going forward, it's hard to tell. They're not very good going forward yet, but that was kind of their problem last year too. When they lost Doge Call and replaced him with Fabian. Fabian is probably an upgrade, but you're losing familiarity. And so they're still not just gelling going forward yet. And Atlanta United, all this talk about, well, we need more energy. And that's good, but that is hard to replicate week after week, game after game. eventually you've got to make some sort of change just fundamentally to make it a little bit easier on yourself to score goals and win games. So I'm going to be curious to see what Atlanta United does on Sunday in that regard.
Must win, need to win, in addition to should win. How would you characterize it?
Oh, got to win. Absolutely have to win. You can't drop more points, especially at home. They've got to win this game.
And you look at this, and then obviously once again, when you and I were in the mix zone, and Michael Parkhurst comes up, and he says that the lineup right now with this one match before you only have one in the next 26 days, it's just something that we have to push through. So how much rotation are you looking at? Is this the starting 11? Is there a tweak in your mind? What are you thinking? Teasing your article of your starting 11.
I haven't even written it yet. I got to think about it a little bit more. I will be surprised if Pity Martinez is in the starting lineup because I think he needs a break, and he's not going to get one if he's headed to Argentina for that camp. I think Joseph will probably keep playing because he needs to score. Barco looked really, really good the other night, but he's got to be close to worn out too. But I think he'll start. I'd love to see Bello back in the lineup. I'd love to see Carlton get a crack in the lineup. Some of those guys. I'd like to see Pogba get a longer run out. People said I was a little bit harsh on him in my ratings from the other game, so I want to try to make that up. So just those kind of things. I think really Pity is probably the only one who I absolutely wouldn't start simply because I thought he did look exhausted the other night.
All right, let's get into the predictions. This is an interesting one because of what could be missing for Atlanta as you're at the end of this run of games. And, yeah, I think you definitely could see some guys miss time due to just being out of gas and needing to not to start on Sunday. But Philadelphia, with the question of who's going to replace Fabian, is it Ilsinho, is it Aronson, is it somebody else? And how defensive is Philadelphia? What's their approach coming into this? Let's start with you, John. What do you think's going to happen on Sunday score-wise?
I think Philadelphia does score, but I think Atlanta scores more. I think that in this need-to-win situation, I think that they get off the schneid, and I'll go 3-1 Atlanta United.
3-1, okay. Doug, what are you thinking on Sunday?
I think 2-0 Atlanta United.
That's where I'm at, too. I'm thinking 2-0 as well. I don't think Philly gets a goal. I think whether it's Aronson or Ilsinho, I just don't think they're going to create enough. And I don't trust Corey Burke yet up top. And Fafa Pico as well. Fafa Pico's speed it can be a problem. He's not really a goal scorer, though. Burke has been pretty inconsistent in his time. I just don't know where the goals are going to come from for the Union. And without Fabian, I think you're going to be missing a lot of the potential magic in the middle of the park. So I don't think Philly's going to sit back and just defend either, though. We haven't really seen that from them in the matches against Atlanta with Jim Curtin in charge. I think he's going to play what he's been playing, a 4-4-2 diamond with Warren Creavalle and Alejandro Bedoya on either side of Medunjanin, and it's going to have some problems. And I think Atlanta doesn't go with the complete goleada that Mike Conti's looking for, but I think they get a couple goals and win fairly comfortably is kind of where my head's at.
Well, that makes sense to me.
All right. Well, there's your column. What do you have coming up at the AJC between now and Sunday?
I've got a story about how Atlanta United hopes to build on Wednesday's performance for the rest of the MLS season. I'll have my predicted lineup on Sunday, and then I'll have game coverage. But I'm not doing any of the predicted lineup until after I see the Avett brothers with my beautiful wife Annette tonight down here in New Orleans.
Nice. Excellent plug. There you go.
Where are they playing?
All right, guys, I'll talk to you later.
All right, be good.
Doug's out.
He's got priorities.
Thanks, Doug. Make sure you're following him,
Bye.
Doug
Be
Roberson, AJC, on Twitter, Atlanta United News Now. Get your subscription to read all of Doug's great content over at the Atlanta Journal-Constitution. We're going to take our final break, come back, and get into your questions on Twitter. Throw them at us at Soccer Down Here, and we'll wrap up with that. Hang out with us. We'll be right back.
Today's show is presented by Appolinsky and Associates, personal injury lawyers with over 30 years of experience, supporters of Atlanta United, Faction, and Inter-Atlanta Youth Football Club. If you've been hurt in a wreck, contact Steve today at steve@aa-legal.com or call in 24/7 at 404-377-9191. The initial consultation is free.
A ranger station.
I'd like to report a bear hug.
Okay.
I put out my campfire and Smokey Bear hugged me.
So you drowned the fire, you stirred it, drowned it again, and felt that it was cold?
Uh-huh.
Yep, he's just letting you know you did good.
Bear hug from Smokey Bear. Status update.
I'm gonna let you go now. There are many ways to start a fire, but one sure way to put it out. Learn how you can do your part at SmokeyBear.com.
Sponsored by the U.S. Forest Service Ad Council and your state forester.
We know that every driver is different, and a one-size policy does not fit all. That's why Country Financial offers a variety of discounts, so you get the coverage you need and the savings you deserve. From good driver to good student, multi-policy to multi-car, we've got a discount to suit every driver. Call Jason Wright at 678-568-6871 today to see what you could save. On Facebook at Jason Wright Agency or by phone at 678-568-6871. Discounts vary by state. Policies issued by Country Mutual Insurance Company, Country Preferred Insurance Company, or Country Casualty Insurance Company, Bloomington, Illinois.
Every hiring manager knows that a company is only as good as the people it's made from. So where do you find the best people? That may surprise you.
Meet the grads of life. Young adults of unique determination and experience. An ideal fit for your company in an entry-level position, internship, or even mentorship. They might not have every qualification you typically look for, but they're exactly who your company needs.
This is talent worth knowing about.
Go to gradsoflife.org to learn how to find, cultivate, and train this great pool of untapped talent. Brought to you by the Ad Council and gradsoflife.org.
Welcome back. Final segment, Soccer Down Here, March 15th, Five Stripe Friday, getting ready for Philadelphia coming to town on Sunday. We've got some questions we want to dig into, and John, I'll ask you this one first from our buddy El Mataflo. Do you think Miles Robinson has played in the middle of the three for his athleticism and his passing ability, or supposed lack thereof? I've noticed that he tends to pass to Parkey, LGP, and the midfielder dropping in and never really looks long.
I think he's played in the middle for his athleticism, but when it comes to passing ability, I don't think he's asked to pass long. I think that in this system, isn't it supposed to be short contact, and working triangles and working your way into possession. And if you bomb it long, then that's counter to what you're trying to do. So I've always thought that Miles was in the middle, because all you have to do, once again, we talked about it with Mike about locking down Funes Mori. You're in the middle to catch up and track back if you need to, but be there as that stabilizer in the middle and outlet to LGP or to Parkey or to whoever drops back from the midfield. So in the middle because of his athleticism, not asked to pass long because of the system.
Of the three, he is the weakest on long passes, on long diagonals. I'll agree with that. But look back at the match against Monterrey, his pass matrix. He had 17 passes to Jeff Lorenowitz, who was to his right. He also had 12, and that was number 2 to Julian Gressel, further out to the right. I don't think you want your center back completing a ton of long passes down the field. You love it when you have a guy like LGP who can connect those and pick people out. Michael Parkhurst, for example, connected 12 times with Ezekiel Barco. Barco was also dropping a little bit deeper, but that's splitting some lines, that's skipping passes. That's good. You don't want it all the time. And I don't think that has anything to do with why Robinson's played in the middle, to be honest. I think he's played there because he's the best 1v1 defender Atlanta United has. Flat out. And when a team wants to play one striker, and they're going to try to play through a number 9, a traditional number 9, I think Frank DeBoer wants Miles Robinson to deal with that guy, period. I honestly think it's that simple. Funes Mori, Robinson was in the middle. When, which match was it that they played 2 up top? It's only happened a couple of times this season so far where Robinson has been out on the right and Parkhurst has been in the middle. When it's 2 strikers, and this is an interesting one with Philadelphia because they've generally played 2 strikers. Do you see Parkey in the middle and Robinson out wide? I think Frank DeBoer wants Robinson to deal with the most challenging forward that the opposition has, and if they have 1, that's who Robinson's going to take. He's going to be central. If they have 2, he's going to deal with the one that is the bigger challenge, and that can be different. And this matchup Sunday is a prime example. If Philly plays 2 up top and it's Corey Burke and Fafa Pico, you have 1 big athletic guy in Burke, you have 1 smaller, faster guy in Fafa Pico. My guess is Robinson's on Fafa Pico.
Yeah.
Because LGP is not going to be able to run with Pico. He can deal with the physicality of Burke. Robinson could deal with either one, but he's the one who's more likely to run with Pico.
For me, it right now is because of Miles' speed, closing ability. Whoever is the faster / more athletic of the individuals, if there's more than 1 up top, that's who Miles is paired up against. So once again, I'll go back to my football analogy of you want your number 1 corner going up against the number 1 receiver. And so right now, Miles is your number 1 corner, and it's just trying to figure out who the number 1 target is for the team coming into town, and that's who you line him up against.
I think that's where you're at. I do think his passing ability is underrated. Go back to the first leg in Monterrey. He had 2 great line-splitting passes to Nagbe and to Martinez that opened things up. I think it's better than he gets credit for, but it's not, especially his longer-range passing, is not where LGP and Parkhurst are. So, Robinson's going to keep the ball moving, keep it simple, but on the ground, splitting passes, I think he's better than you think on that. John, Jon, the correct spelling according to Nelson over there, he asks, where do we stand with Vasquez or Williams backing up Joseph off the bench? Was curious why Romario wasn't in the 18 on Wednesday, but always rated Vasquez. Also, have we been able to translate his Twitter handle into something resembling human speech? I have nothing on that. I think John's been trying to figure that out in the last couple breaks, and I don't know if he's made any progress. But where do we stand on who's backing up who? I thought it was interesting that Brandon Vasquez played as a number 9 for ATL UTD2 in the first match of the season because he has not played a number 9 in an Atlanta United shirt ever before that. He's always been on the right wing in a 4-2-3-1. We had not seen him as a number 9. He has the size, the body type, and I believe that was where he typically played coming up with U.S. youth national teams and early in his career, in his academy career as well. It was different. I think he can do it. I think he gives you something different than Romario Williams. I think Romario's faster. I think Brandon's a little bigger and stronger. Who's going to be the better fit for the way that Atlanta United wants to play right now, whether it's Stephen Glass or Frank DeBoer? That's something to be figure out. I thought Vasquez getting the goal, even though he had a bad miss with the 2s, he got a goal. He looked pretty confident throughout the match, and bouncing back after the miss shows a lot. He might just be in a little bit better form at the moment. It could be as simple as that. I'm curious to see the lineup tonight and see if it is Vasquez or Williams who gets the start up top.
Yeah, and for me, that's going to be part of this development. I don't think that the staff for Atlanta United with Frank DeBoer has definitives yet. I still think that, remember how young you are in your MLS season, and you were having to juggle CONCACAF Champions League and trying to get as far as you could in there. And you've only played 2 matches in MLS, so you're still trying to figure out what you have. You know what you have in your 11s, and then it's trying to figure out how to fill out your 18s and figure out, okay, so on this day, who do I have and where do I need him? And I still think it's a work in progress, but we got to see what Brandon did last weekend against Hartford Athletic. Do we see Romario in the match tonight in the 18 or in the 11? So I think that's my first question. And I think that when you look at the lineup that's released today for the match against Lou City, that'll give you some clues as to what you're going to see on the weekend against Philly.
Longtime listener John Nason is on board with the spelling of John as well. So you have a triumvirate of J
3-1 baby
out there.
The Twitter thing with
Romario. Did you figure anything out, or did your head explode?
I think I've got the last half of it because obviously you look at the I am and then you get into the underscore part, and it took me a second to figure out the last half. And so I'm guessing, you have the RGW, which I imagine is his initials. It says I am underscore PAVY RGW 7. So I'm guessing that in the family chain that he is the 7th of something. He might be the 7th of Romario's, but we don't know that yet. Or maybe that's a previous number, a first number that he had. But the RGW is the initials. VII being 7, but the Pavy part up top is where I'm having my issues.
I do not know. I'm not sure. I think Robert Swick had an idea on it on Twitter that he just sent to us, and it's basically where you're at. I think you guys are on the same page. I'm guessing maybe that's a nickname.
Oh, sir, as Pavy, sir. Okay,
I don't know.
Sir Romario G. Williams the 7th. Okay. Hey, way to go, Swickster. Good on you for figuring that out.
It sounds good. I'm going to go with it.
Sounds good. We'll take it.
Yes. Let's go to Will Palmer's question. What does the back line look like in a 4-3-3? Where or does 2019 Defender of the Year Miles Robinson fit in? He's young.
21st thousandth century Defender.
He's young, but I don't think he makes it to 2019. Don't think that's going to happen. You never know. Things could change. Let's get into the 4-3-3 in the back line. It presents a lot of questions. I think the left side is going to be what you would expect. It's going to be Bello, for me, first choice, and Ambrose and Shea backing him up. Right side, I think, is Franco Escobar, and Frank DeBoer made that point, I thought, pretty clearly in his post-game comments on Wednesday. In the middle, I don't think you can pull Miles Robinson at all. I don't think it's possible. So who's the other one? That's a tough question. I don't know. You have your captain in Michael Parkhurst, and you have Leandro Gonzalez-Perez, who has been as good of a center back in Major League Soccer as you've seen in the last 2 years. That's another reason why you've went to 3, because you have 3 guys who are starting level. But you have to find what system works the best for the whole group. And if somebody has to get sacrificed for that, it could be a rotation. But I think Miles right now is in the best form of anyone, and he's the automatic one for me.
Yes. Until further notice, Miles Robinson is a part of that back line, and LGP is as well. And when Escobar comes back, I think that's when you have your questions. I'm looking at a rotation, especially when you start to get into compression and then you're getting into U.S. Open play. So right for me, it's LGP Miles, and then you're looking at Escobar coming back, and then Parkhurst a part of it. So it's a good problem to have, but I'm looking at something akin to a rotation when everybody's back at full song.
And then you have questions further up the field too.
Gressel.
Well, you have at the 6, you have Lorenowitz and Remedi, and I would say that Eric's the first choice, and Lorenowitz can play there comfortably as well. Your 2 10s, I think it's between Nagbe, Gressel, and Barco. Barco can play out wide as well. I think Pitti is your guy on the left, with Carlton getting time and potentially some of Barco there. I think Tito Villalba is your guy on the right, with Gressel getting time there. Barco can get time there as well. And Joseph up top. But you have, and we've said it, I think you have 15, 16 starting level guys, and you have 11 spots. So you're going to have some players who fit into the 3-4-3 that might not fit into a starting role in the 4-3-3. You have some players that have fit into the 3-4-3 lineup and the shape that you're going to have to move things around a little bit in the 4-3-3. And this is going to be very, very intriguing and I think the way it'll go down at first, if the insertion of Franco Escobar and Tito Villalba open things up for this team. I could really see that happening. Also, you could see, a little bit of a bumpy ride as players adjust to new roles. The schedule works out great for this because you'll have Escobar back, I would think, at full song by your trip to New England.
Yeah.
And you're going to have that full week after Columbus going to New England to prepare in a 4-3-3 if that's what you want to do. You'd think everything would be set then.
Yeah, so I think that this is another one of those reasons that one match in 26, even though you have folks, drifting away for international duty, I think that this is where you look toward Escobar coming 100%, PT becoming integrated and feeling comfortable as close to 100% as possible, figuring out what your 18s are, figuring out who's going to be in behind, even though for me, I think it's going to be situational when it comes to having 15 or 16 guys. I think that you're going to look at the supposed strengths that you've analyzed for the team that you're going to be facing, and you sit there and it's like, okay, I'm going to have this guy in here in this position, and I'm going to have this guy coming in off the bench. But to have 15 or 16, that's what you've been building toward, so you can be strong and with 30 minutes left to bring somebody in who's just going to run their you-know-what off and have it almost be an unfair situation defensively for the team that you're facing. So, no, this is what you're working towards, so you can come up with multiple trophies in a season. So it's going to take some adjustment by a lot of different guys, but to have a lot of different guys being able to fight for positions, fight for playing time, fit for positioning, I think that obviously it benefits Atlanta United in the long run.
Let's finish with this. What do you think about the deja vu of a Miami MLS team setting up shop in Fort Lauderdale at Lockhart Stadium? Because we've seen this before. The Miami Fusion was supposed to play at the Orange Bowl, and then the business dealings got squirrely around that time, so they had to move up and refurbish Lockhart Stadium in 1998, and they struggled to connect. And I think it'd be different if their ownership had been able to ride it out, but they weren't, and the league was in a completely different place in 2001 when the Fusion played their last season than it is now. However, Inter Miami, you have issues. You needed a temporary place to play anyway, and we've talked about all the different possibilities. Hard Rock Stadium is out because of a tennis tournament that's going to take up a huge portion of the season, along with Dolphins games at the end of the season, so it's not going to work. Marlins Park was always going to be difficult. Sounds like that wasn't ever truly a possibility. FIU has Ricardo Silva's name on it, and I don't think he wants to do any kind of dealings with MLS. So you don't really have a place. So Lockhart became a possibility as a temporary. Also, you were going to do your academy and everything there, and I think the academy and training center and all that makes a ton of sense. Now you're going to play MLS games there. Did you see the look on David Beckham's face at this press conference that was in front of the dilapidated Lockhart Stadium? Why did you do the press conference like that?
I think the look on Beck's face was, you got to be blanking kidding me.
I feel so bad for Beckham at this point. I mean, I really think he came in to try to do this the right way, and it's had so many twists and turns, and he's stuck with it. I mean, give him credit for that. He is stuck with this to try to make it happen. But now you're going to play at Lockhart the field looks like a young forest at the moment, and the scoreboard still has the Fort Lauderdale Strikers logo on it where it hasn't faded out.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of work that's going to have to be done between now and March, maybe February of 2020 for them to hit the field.
Lots of landscaping needing to be done.
Yeah, I mean the long-term plan for what they want that whole piece of land to look like is beautiful and great, and for a stadium that will house a second team, and for a stadium that can house a first team too. I mean, it can work, but it's not what was intended, and there's still concerns that even after things have been voted for and approved, that Miami politics could derail the Freedom Park deal.
Mm-hmm.
And you had to have a plan B. I think honestly, from a business strategy, I totally get it. You had to do it. You had to be ready, and they did. And now it's dropped on everybody, but this whole thing has just been absolutely crazy. I want a 30 for 30 just about Miami stadiums for soccer.
What if there was a town that had places to play and you didn't play in them?
No, there's nowhere to play. They didn't say, no, I don't want to play here. Like, they can't play at Hard Rock. They can't play at FIU. They can't play at Marlins Park. The Orange Bowl's long gone. There's nowhere else. I guess you could play at Florida Atlantic in Boca Raton.
Yeah.
I guess, but maybe that was ruled out too. I don't think there's anywhere else. So it's back to Lockhart, back to the home of the Miami Fusion, back to the home of the Fort Lauderdale Strikers, and what's been a great venue for soccer in this country before, but it needs some TLC, that's for sure.
It needs a lot of TLC and some bulldozers and some Weed Be Gone and some lawnmowers and some what's the spray that you kill the weeds with?
Well, you don't want to use that. That stuff's bad. Yeah, you don't want to go there. There's lawsuits against that, so don't do that.
Roundup is what I was thinking of. Don't do Roundup?
No, there's lawsuits. It's causing cancer and stuff. Don't do it.
Okay, that's not good. But I mean, just the look on Beckham's face at that presser. It's just like you have all of these grand ideas and great pictures, and you're having a presser in front of weeds and a scoreboard that hasn't been adjusted. Woof.
Yeah. That was an interesting decision on the backdrop for the presser. I don't know.
Oh, God.
I don't know. We'll see what happens. Miami's always going to keep you on your toes.
It's one word to use.
I'm just wondering if they will be ready to play in 2020. Nashville will. Will Miami be
Sacramento?
able to? Not, well, Sacramento could, but it sounds like St. Louis might be ahead of them in the expansion race. But Sacramento would be the one that is most ready to hit the field because St. Louis is not attached to St. Louis FC. You're not starting a club completely from scratch in a few months. That's not happening. Sacramento would be the one that's most ready to go. So do they jump and Miami gets an extra year if necessary?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Miami's been making hires. Like, Miami's got staff.
Miami's getting the front
ready to go
office.
for 20.
Didn't they sign it? Didn't they sign a player?
No, they did not. But I don't know. We'll see. It's going to be interesting. The Garlic Bread Warlord is not a fan. He says some of the soccer fans in Miami may want Inter Miami to exist, but the government of Miami most certainly does not. This entire endeavor is quickly becoming flaming space junk.
Skylab FC, Inter Miami.
John Nason said Bex probably thought James Corden was pranking him again. Yeah, if you haven't seen that, go check out that video of Corden pranking Bex with the statue. And Bex trying to be professional and nice and not lose his mind.
You can hear his face creaking in that bit.
Yeah, absolutely. Jim Lepp says Miami's going to hire Ray Hudson as manager and sign Valderrama as a designated player. We're going back to 1999.
That'd be a magisterial signing if it was.
No, Carlos Valderrama moves even slower now than he did then.
Still has the hair, though.
Does he?
Yeah.
Okay, nice. Good work. Is it real, though?
That is up for debate.
I mean, you got to keep the gimmick, so he might have
no
needed some help.
doubt.
I don't know. I'm not questioning Valderrama's his hair because it is magisterial, but. John Nason also asks, and we'll close with this one, what scenarios do you see Romario getting a start over Joseph? Injury.
Yeah.
That's it. Not even tired, because I'm not taking Joseph out of the lineup.
No. And Joseph won't tell you he's tired anyway.
No, I'm not telling that guy, yeah, you need a night off. No, not doing it. I value my life. So,
yes.
Injury, that's it. I think Joseph is your guy if he is healthy, and that's it.
Bottom line.
Yeah, it's not a knock on Romario, and you're going to get to a point, we've talked about it for a long time, as you develop talent, sometimes you develop talent, and there's nowhere for that talent to play when they're ready to play, and they have to move on to find somewhere to play. And Romario could be a guy in that situation. Brandon Vasquez could be a guy in that situation. Honestly, the homegrown players could be a guy in that situation too. It happens. You produce talent, and you can't always guarantee where they fit into the pipeline and into the depth chart. And sometimes they get ahead of schedule, or somebody else hangs on longer, or somebody else develops alongside that you didn't expect, and you have to figure things out on the fly. It kind of comes back to our center back discussion with Miles Robinson pushing forward now. Andrew Carlton's going to need time. You got to find spots for Julian Gressel, Tito Villalba, Barco, Pitti. Going to have to juggle that one. You're going to have to juggle the left side with Breck Shea, with George Bello, with Mikey Ambrose. It's good problems to have, but these things will come up at the end of seasons about, okay, is there time for this player to play coming up in the following season? Or do they have value and it's time for them to go to get more playing time? It's the headaches of a big club, and you're going to see these things happen. So for 2019, I think the depth is good. Maybe right back's a little thin, especially a true right back who can play on a four-man back line, because I think Frank de Boer made that point pretty clear after the match that he went to three in the back because he didn't feel like he had a guy who could play right back in a four-man back line in these early season matches. Now, he might be able to develop someone to play there. He didn't feel like he could with the schedule compressed the way it was, so he went to a 3-4-3. Does he go to 4-3-3 when Escobar's back? What does the rotation look like? What does the lineup look like? All big questions going forward for Atlanta United. But first up, it's Philadelphia coming to town on Sunday. 6:30 is our pregame on Star 94.1. 7 o'clock, just after 7, is kickoff. You can watch our friends Kevin Egan, Dan Gargan, Jillian Sakovits with their first local broadcast of the year. Is it Fox Sports South or Southeast?
I think it's Southeast.
Their pregame starts at 6:30 as well. And I think that's
Join
it.
the Fantasy League.
Join the Fantasy League. Make your prediction on the Bailey Daily poll presented by Appolinsky & Associates. Join the Fantasy League presented by the Jason Wright Agency. Watch tonight, whether live or on TV, ATL UTD2, Louisville City. Want to see some lineup choices there as well. We'll be on the call for that just at 7:30 kickoff, about 5 minutes after. And I think that's it. AT&T Countdown to Kickoff on Sunday, an hour before kick on Atlanta United's social media channels. All the things. Busy weekend ahead in the Atlanta United universe, the final weekend before the international break. We'll be back on Monday to wrap all of it up with you guys at 9 a.m. Thanks for listening all week. We really appreciate it. Thanks for all the great questions all week. We'll talk to y'all a lot this weekend on a lot of different platforms. Thanks for consuming all of it with us. Mucha plata, y'all.
Minnesota United signed Lawrence Olam, another defensive mid. Mucha plata, y'all.